Chapter 20.
Then God issued this edict. I am Jehovah, your God, who liberated you from your slavery in Egypt. You may worship no other God than me. You shall not make yourselves any idols, any images resembling animals, birds, or fish. You must never bow to an image or worship it in any way, for I, the Lord your God, am very possessive. I will not share your affection with any other god. And when I punish people for their sins, the punishment continues upon the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of those who hate me. But I lavish my love upon thousands of those who love me and obey my commandments. You shall not use the name of Jehovah your God irreverently, nor use it to swear to a falsehood. You will not escape punishment if you do. Remember to observe the Sabbath as a holy day. 6 days a week are for your daily duties and your regular work, but the seventh day is a day of Sabbath rest before the Lord your God. On that day you are to do no work of any kind, nor shall your son, daughter, or slaves, whether men or women, or your cattle, or your house guests. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven, earth, and sea, and everything in them, and rested the seventh day. So he blessed the Sabbath day, and set it aside for rest. Honor your father and mother, that you may have a long, good life in the land the Lord your God will give you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not lie. You must not be envious of your neighbor's house, or want to sleep with his wife, or want to own his slaves, oxen, donkeys, or anything else he has. All the people saw the lightning and the smoke billowing from the mountain, and heard the thunder and the long, frightening trumpet blast. And they stood at a distance, shaking with fear. They said to Moses,
"You tell us what God says, and we will obey. But don't let God speak directly to us, or it will kill us."
Don't be afraid, for God has come in this way to show you his awesome power, so that from now on you will be afraid to sin against him.
As the people stood in the distance, Moses entered into the deep darkness where God was. And the Lord told Moses to be his spokesman to the people of Israel. You are witnesses to the fact that I have made known my will to you from heaven. Remember, you must not make or worship idols made of silver or gold or of anything else. The altars you make for me must be simple altars of earth. Offer upon them your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings and peace offerings of sheep and oxen. Build altars only where I tell you to, and I will come and bless you there. You may also build altars from stone, but if you do, then use only uncut stones and boulders. Don't chip or shape the stones with a tool, for that would make them unfit for my altar. And don't make steps for the altar, or someone might look up beneath the skirts of your clothing and see your nakedness.
Chapter 21.
Here are other laws you must obey. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve only 6 years, and be freed in the 7th year, and need pay nothing to regain his freedom. If he sold himself as a slave before he married, then if he married afterwards, only he shall be freed. But if he was married before he became a slave, then his wife shall be freed with him at the same time. But if his master gave him a wife while he was a slave, and they have sons or daughters, the wife and children shall still belong to the master, and he shall go out by himself, free. But if the man shall plainly declare, I prefer my master, my wife, and my children, and I would rather not go free, Then his master shall bring him before the judges, and shall publicly bore his ear with an awl, and after that he will be a slave forever. If a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not be freed at the end of 6 years, as the men are. If she does not please the man who bought her, then he shall let her be bought back again. But he has no power to sell her to foreigners, since he has wronged her by no longer wanting her after marrying her. And if he arranges an engagement between a Hebrew slave girl and his son, then he may no longer treat her as a slave girl, but must treat her as a daughter. If he himself marries her, and then takes another wife, he may not reduce her food or clothing, or fail to sleep with her as his wife. If he fails in any of these 3 things, then she may leave freely without any payment. Anyone who hits a man so hard that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if it is accidental, an act of God, and not intentional, then I will appoint a place where he can run and get protection. However, if a man deliberately attacks another, intending to kill him, drag him even from my altar, and kill him. Anyone who strikes his father or mother shall surely be put to death. A kidnapper must be killed, whether he is caught in possession of his victim or has already sold him as a slave. Anyone who reviles or curses his mother or father shall surely be put to death. If 2 men are fighting, and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist, and injures him so that he must be confined to bed, but doesn't die, if later he is able to walk again, even with a limp, the man who hit him will be innocent, except that he must pay for the loss of his time until he is thoroughly healed, and pay any medical expenses. If a man beats his slave to death, whether the slave is male or female, that man shall surely be punished. However, if the slave does not die for a couple of days, then the man shall not be punished, for the slave is his property. If 2 men are fighting, and in the process hurt a pregnant woman so that she has a miscarriage, but she lives, then the man who injured her shall be fined whatever amount the woman's husband shall demand, and as the judges approve. But if any harm comes to the woman and she dies, he shall be executed. If her eye is injured, injure his. If her tooth is knocked out, knock out his. And so on, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, lash for lash. If a man hits his slave in the eye, whether man or woman, and the eye is blinded, then the slave shall go free because of his eye. And if a master knocks out his slave's tooth, he shall let him go free to pay for the tooth. If an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh not eaten, but the owner shall not be held, unless the ox was known to gore people in the past, and the owner had been notified, and still the ox was not kept under control. In that case, if it kills someone, the ox shall be stoned, and the owner also shall be killed. But the dead man's relatives may accept a fine instead if they wish. The judges will determine the amount. The same law holds if the ox gores a boy or a girl. But if the ox gores a slave, whether male or female, the slave's master shall be given 30 pieces of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. If a man digs a well and doesn't cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the well shall pay full damages to the owner of the animal, and the dead animal shall belong to him. If a man's ox injures another, and it dies, then the 2 owners shall sell the live ox and divide the price between them, and each shall also own half of the dead ox. But if the ox was known from past experience to gore, and its owner has not kept it under control, then there will not be a division of the income, but the owner of the living ox shall pay in full for the dead ox, and the dead one shall be his.
Chapter 22.
If a man steals an ox or sheep, and then kills or sells it, he shall pay a fine of 5 to 1. 5 oxen shall be returned for each stolen ox. For sheep, the fine shall be 4 to 1, 4 sheep returned for each sheep stolen. If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is killed, the one who killed him is not guilty. But if it happens in the daylight, it must be presumed to be murder, and the man who kills him is guilty. If a thief is captured, he must make full restitution. If he can't, then he must be sold as a slave for his debt. If he is caught in the act of stealing a live ox or donkey or sheep or whatever it is, he shall pay double value as his fine. If someone deliberately lets his animal loose and it gets into another man's vineyard, or if he turns it into another man's field to graze, he must pay for all damages by giving the owner of the field or vineyard an equal amount of the best of his own crop. If the field is being burned off, and the fire gets out of control and goes into another field so that the shocks of grain or the standing grain are destroyed, the one who started the fire shall make full restitution. If someone gives money or goods to anyone to keep for him, and it is stolen, the thief shall pay double if he is found. But if no thief is found, then the man to whom the valuables were entrusted shall be brought before God to determine whether or not he himself has stolen his neighbor's property. In every case in which an ox, donkey, sheep, clothing, or anything else is lost, and the owner believes he has found it in the possession of someone else who denies it, both parties to the dispute shall come before God for a decision, and the one whom God declares guilty shall pay double to the other. If a man asks his neighbor to keep a donkey, ox, sheep, or any other animal for him, and it dies, or is hurt, or gets away, and there is no eyewitness to report just what happened to it, then the neighbor must take an oath that he has not stolen it, and the owner must accept his word, and no restitution shall be made for it. But if the animal or property has been stolen, the neighbor caring for it must repay the owner. If it was attacked by some wild animal, he shall bring the torn carcass to confirm the fact, and shall not be required to make restitution. If a man borrows an animal or anything else from a neighbor, and it is injured or killed, and the owner is not there at the time, then the man who borrowed it must pay for it. But if the owner is there, he need not pay. And if it was rented, then he need not pay, because this possibility was included in the original rental fee. If a man seduces a girl who is not engaged to anyone and sleeps with her, he must pay the usual dowry and accept her as his wife. But if her father utterly refuses to let her marry him, then he shall pay the money anyway. A sorceress shall be put to death. Anyone having sexual relations with an animal shall certainly be executed. Anyone sacrificing to any other god than Jehovah shall be executed. You must not oppress a stranger in any way. Remember, you yourselves were foreigners in the land of Egypt. You must not exploit widows or orphans. If you do so in any way, and they cry to me for my help, I will surely give it. And my anger shall flame out against you, and I will kill you with enemy armies, so that your wives will be widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to a needy fellow Hebrew, you are not to handle the transaction in an ordinary way with interest. If you take his clothing as a pledge of his repayment, you must let him have it back at night, for it is probably his only warmth. How can he sleep without it? If you don't return it, and he cries to me for help, I will hear and be very gracious to him at your expense, for I am very compassionate. You shall not blaspheme God, nor curse government officials, your judges and your rulers. You must be prompt in giving me the tithe of your crops and your wine, and the redemption payment for your oldest son. As to the firstborn of the oxen and the sheep, give it to me on the 8th day, after leaving it with its mother for 7 days. And since you yourselves are holy, my special people, do not eat any animal that has been attacked and killed by a wild animal. Leave its carcass for the dogs to eat.
Chapter 23.
Do not pass along untrue reports. Do not cooperate with an evil man by affirming on the witness stand something you know is false. Don't join mobs intent on evil. When on the witness stand, don't be swayed in your testimony by the mood of the majority present. And do not slant your testimony in favor of a man just because he is poor. If you come upon an enemy's ox or donkey that has strayed away, you must take it back to its owner. If you see your enemy trying to get his donkey onto its feet beneath a heavy load, you must not go on by, but must help him. A man's poverty is no excuse for twisting justice against him. Keep far away from falsely charging anyone with evil. Never let an innocent person be put to death. I will not stand for this. Take no bribes, for a bribe makes you unaware of what you clearly see. A bribe hurts the cause of the person who is right. Do not oppress foreigners. You know what it's like to be a foreigner. Remember your own experience in the land of Egypt. Sow and reap your crops for 6 years. But let the land rest and lie fallow during the 7th year, and let the poor among the people harvest any volunteer crop that may come up. Leave the rest for the animals to enjoy. The same rule applies to your vineyards and your olive groves. Work 6 days only, and rest the 7th. This is to give your oxen and donkeys a rest, as well as the people of your household, your slaves and visitors. Be sure to obey all of these instructions, and remember, never mention the name of any other god. There are 3 annual religious pilgrimages you must make. The first is the pilgrimage of unleavened bread, when for 7 days you are not to eat bread with yeast, just as I commanded you before. This celebration is to be an annual event at the regular time in March, the month you left Egypt. Everyone must bring me a sacrifice at that time. Then there is the harvest pilgrimage, when you must bring to me the first of your crops. And finally, the pilgrimage of ingathering at the end of the harvest season. At these 3 times each year, every man in Israel shall appear before the Lord God. No sacrificial blood shall be offered with leavened bread. No sacrificial fat shall be left unoffered until the next morning. As you reap each of your crops, bring me the choicest sample of the first day's harvest. It shall be offered to the Lord your God. Do not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. See, I am sending an angel before you to lead you safely to the land I have prepared for you. Reverence him and obey all of his instructions. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgression. He is my representative. He bears my name. But if you are careful to obey him, following all my instructions, then I will be an enemy to your enemies. For my angel shall go before you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, to live there. And I will destroy those people before you. You must not worship the gods of these other nations, nor sacrifice to them in any way, and you must not follow the evil example of these heathen people. You must utterly conquer them and break down their shameful idols. You shall serve the Lord your God only. Then I will bless you with food and with water, and I will take away sickness from among you. There will be no miscarriages, nor barrenness throughout your land, and you will live out the full quota of the days of your life. The terror of the Lord shall fall upon all the people whose land you invade, and they will flee before you. And I will send hornets to drive out the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites from before you. I will not do it all in 1 year, for the land would become a wilderness, and the wild animals would become too many to control. But I will drive them out a little at a time, until your population has increased enough to fill the land. And I will set your enlarged boundaries from the Red Sea to the Philistine coast, and from the southern deserts as far as the Euphrates River. And I will cause you to defeat the people now living in the land, and you will drive them out ahead of you. You must make no covenant with them, nor have anything to do with their gods. Don't let them live among you, for I know that they will infect you with their sin of worshiping false gods, and that would be an utter disaster to you.
Chapter 24.
The Lord now instructed Moses, "Come up here with Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. All of you except Moses are to worship at a distance. Moses alone shall come near to the Lord. And remember, none of the ordinary people are permitted to come up into the mountain at all." Then Moses announced to the people all the laws and regulations God had given him, and the people answered in unison,
"We will obey them all."
Moses wrote down the laws, and early the next morning he built an altar at the foot of the mountain, with 12 pillars around the altar, because there were 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent some of the young men to sacrifice the burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood of these animals and drew it off into basins. The other half he splashed against the altar. And he read to the people the book he had written, the book of the covenant, containing God's directions and laws. And the people said again,
"We solemnly promise to obey every one of these rules."
Then Moses threw the blood from the basins towards the people and said,
"This blood confirms and seals the covenant the Lord has made with you in giving you these laws."
Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up into the mountain, and they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet there seemed to be a pavement of brilliant sapphire stones, as clear as the heavens. Yet even though the elders saw God, he did not destroy them, and they had a meal together before the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me into the mountain, and remain until I give you the laws and commandments I have written on tablets of stone, so that you can teach the people from them." So Moses and Joshua, his assistant, went up into the mountain of God. He told the elders,
"Stay here and wait for us until we come back. If there are any problems while I am gone, consult with Aaron and Hur."
Then Moses went up the mountain and disappeared into the cloud at the top. And the glory of the Lord rested upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. The 7th day he called to Moses from the cloud. Those at the bottom of the mountain saw the awesome sight. The glory of the Lord on the mountaintop looked like a raging fire. And Moses disappeared into the cloud-covered mountaintop, and was there for 40 days and 40 nights.
Chapter 25.
Jehovah said to Moses, "Tell the people of Israel that everyone who wants to may bring me an offering from this list: gold, silver, bronze, blue cloth, purple cloth, scarlet cloth, fine twined linen, goat's hair, red dyed ram skins, goat skins, acacia wood, olive oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones, stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. For I want the people of Israel to make me a sacred temple where I can live among them. This home of mine shall be a tent pavilion, a tabernacle. I will give you a drawing of the construction plan and the details of each furnishing. Using acacia wood, make an ark 3 3/4 feet long, 2 1/4 feet wide, and 2 1/4 feet high. Overlay it inside and outside with pure gold, with a molding of gold all around it. Cast 4 rings of gold for it, and attach them to the 4 lower corners, 2 rings on each side. Make poles from acacia wood, overlaid with gold, and fit the poles into the rings at the sides of the ark, to carry it. These carrying poles shall never be taken from the rings, but are to be left there permanently. When the ark is finished, place inside it the tablets of stone I will give you, with the 10 commandments engraved on them. And make a lid of pure gold, 3 3/4 feet long and 2 1/4 feet wide. This is the place of mercy for your sins. Then make images of angels, using beaten gold, and place them at the 2 ends of the lid of the ark. They shall be one piece with the mercy place, one at each end. The cherubim, the angels, shall be facing each other, looking down upon the place of mercy, and shall have wings spread out above the gold lid. Install the lid upon the ark, and place within the ark the tablets of stone I shall give you. And I will meet with you there, and talk with you from above the place of mercy, between the cherubim. And the ark will contain the laws of my covenant. There I will tell you my commandments for the people of Israel. Then make a table of acacia wood, 3 feet long, 1 1/2 feet wide, and 2 1/4 feet high. Overlay it with pure gold, and run a rib of gold around it. Put a molding 4 inches wide around the edge of the top, and a gold ridge along the molding all around. Make 4 golden rings, and put the rings at the outside corner of the 4 legs, close to the top. These are rings for the poles that will be used to carry the table. Make the poles from acacia wood overlaid with gold, and make golden dishes, spoons, pitchers, and flagons, and always keep the special bread of the presence on the table before me. Make a lampstand of pure beaten gold. The entire lampstand and its decorations shall be one piece, the base, shaft, lamps, and blossoms. It will have 3 branches going out from each side of the center shaft, each branch decorated with 3 almond flowers. The central shaft itself will be decorated with 4 almond flowers, one placed between each set of branches. Also, there will be one flower above the top set of branches and one below the bottom set. These decorations and branches and the shaft are all to be one piece of pure beaten gold. Then make 7 lamps for the lampstand and set them so that they reflect their light forward. The snuffers and trays are to be made of pure gold. You will need about 107 pounds of pure gold for the lampstand and its accessories. Be sure that everything you make follows the pattern I am showing you here on the mountain.
Chapter 26.
Make the tabernacle tent from 10 colored sheets of fine twined linen, 42 feet long and 6 feet wide, dyed blue, purple, and scarlet, with cherubim embroidered on them. Join 5 sheets end to end for each side of the tent, forming 2 long pieces, one for each side. Use loops at the edges to join these 2 long pieces together side by side. There are to be 50 loops on each side, opposite each other. Then make 50 golden clasps to fasten the loops together, so that the tabernacle, the dwelling place of God, becomes a single unit. The roof of the tabernacle is made of goat's hair tarpaulins. There are to be 11 of these tarpaulins, each 45 feet across and 6 feet wide. Connect 5 of these tarpaulins into one wide section, and use the other 6 for another wide section. The 6th tarpaulin will hang down to form a curtain across the front of the sacred tent. Use 50 loops along the edges of each of these 2 wide pieces to join them together, with 50 bronze clasps. Thus the 2 widths become one. There will be a 1 1/2 foot length of this roof covering hanging down from the back of the tent, and a 1 1/2 foot length at the front. On top of these blankets is placed a layer of ram's skins, dyed red, and over them a top layer of goat skins. This completes the roof covering. The framework of the sacred tent shall be made from acacia wood, each frame piece being 15 feet high and 2 1/4 feet wide, standing upright with grooves on each side to mortise into the next upright piece. 20 of these frames will form the south side of the sacred tent, with 40 silver bases for the frames to fit into, 2 bases under each piece of the frame. On the north side, there will also be 20 of these frames, with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each edge. On the west side, there will be 6 frames, and 2 frames at each corner. These corner frames will be connected at the bottom and top with clasps. So in all, there will be 8 frames on that end of the building, with 16 silver bases for the frames, 2 bases under each frame. Make bars of acacia wood to run across the frames, 5 bars on each side of the tabernacle. Also 5 bars for the rear of the building facing westward. The middle bar, halfway up the frames, runs all the way from end to end of the tabernacle. Overlay the frames with gold, and make gold rings to hold the bars, and also overlay the bars with gold. Set up this tabernacle tent in the manner I showed you in the mountain. Inside the tabernacle, make a veil from blue, purple, and scarlet cloth, the fine twined linen with cherubim embroidered into the cloth. Hang this upon 4 acacia pillars overlaid with gold with 4 golden hooks. The pillars are to rest in 4 silver bases. Hang the curtain from the hooks. Behind this curtain, place the ark containing the stone tablets engraved with God's laws. The curtain will separate the holy place and the most holy place. Now install the mercy place, the golden lid of the ark, in the most holy place. Place the table and lampstand across the room from each other on the outer side of the veil. The lampstand will be on the south side of the holy place and the table on the north side. As a screen for the door of the sacred tent, make another curtain from skillfully embroidered blue, purple, and scarlet fine twined linen. Hang up this curtain on 5 acacia wood posts, overlaid with gold, with hooks of gold, and a bronze socket for each pillar.
Chapter 27.
Using acacia wood, make a square altar 7 1/2 feet wide and 3 feet high. Make horns for the 4 corners of the altar, attach them firmly, and overlay everything with bronze. The ash buckets, shovels, basins, carcass hooks, and fire pans are all to be made of bronze. Make a bronze grating with a metal ring at each corner, and fit the grating halfway down into the firebox, resting it upon the ledge built there. For moving the altar, make poles from acacia wood overlaid with bronze. To carry it, put the poles into the rings at each side of the altar. The altar is to be hollow, made from planks, just as was shown you on the mountain. Then make a courtyard for the tabernacle, enclosed with curtains made from fine twined linen. On the south side, the curtains will stretch for 150 feet and be held up by 20 posts, fitting into 20 bronze post holders. The curtains will be held up with silver hooks attached to silver rods attached to the posts. It will be the same on the north side of the court, 150 feet of curtains held up by 20 posts fitted into bronze sockets with silver hooks and rods. The west side of the court will be 75 feet wide, with 10 posts and 10 sockets. The east side will also be 75 feet. On each side of the entrance, there will be 22.5 feet of curtain, held up by 3 posts embedded in 3 sockets. The entrance to the court will be a 30-foot wide curtain, made of beautifully embroidered blue, purple, and scarlet fine-twined linen, and attached to 4 posts embedded in their 4 sockets. All the posts around the court are to be connected by silver rods using silver hooks, the posts being embedded in solid bronze bases. So the entire court will be 150 feet long and 75 feet wide, with curtain walls 7.5 feet high, made from fine twined linen. All utensils used in the work of the tabernacle, including all the pins and pegs for hanging the utensils on the walls, will be made of bronze. Instruct the people of Israel to bring you pure olive oil to use in the lamps of the tabernacle, to burn there continually. Aaron and his sons shall place this eternal flame in the outer holy room, tending it day and night before the Lord, so that it never goes out. This is a permanent rule for the people of Israel.
Chapter 28.
Consecrate Aaron your brother, and his sons Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar to be priests, to minister to me. Make special clothes for Aaron, to indicate his separation to God, beautiful garments that will lend dignity to his work. Instruct those to whom I have given special skill as tailors to make the garments that will set him apart from others, so that he may minister to me in the priest's office. This is the wardrobe they shall make: a chest piece, an ephod, a robe, a checkered tunic, a turban, and a sash. They shall also make special garments for Aaron's sons. The ephod shall be made by the most skilled of the workmen, using blue, purple, and scarlet threads of fine-twined linen. It will consist of 2 pieces, front and back, joined at the shoulders. And the sash shall be made of the same material, threads of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet fine-twined linen. Take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the tribes of Israel. 6 names shall be on each stone, so that all the tribes are named in the order of their births. When engraving these names, use the same technique as in making a seal, and mount the stones in gold settings. Fasten the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod as memorial stones for the people of Israel. Aaron will carry their names before the Lord as a constant reminder. 2 chains of pure, twisted gold shall be made and attached to golden clasps on the shoulder of the ephod. Then, using the most careful workmanship, make a chest piece to be used as God's oracle. Use the same gold, blue, purple, and scarlet threads of fine-twined linen as you did in the ephod. This chest piece is to be of 2 folds of cloth, forming a pouch. Attached to it 4 rows of stones. A ruby, a topaz, and an emerald shall be in the first row. The second row will be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row will be an amber, an agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row will be an onyx, a beryl, and a jasper, all set in gold settings. Each stone will represent one of the tribes of Israel, and the name of that tribe will be engraved upon it like a seal. Attach the top of the chest piece to the ephod by means of 2 twisted cords of pure gold. One end of each cord is attached to golden rings placed at the outer top edge of the chest piece. The other ends of the 2 cords are attached to the front edges of the 2 settings of the onyx stones on the shoulder of the ephod. Then make 2 more golden rings and place them on the 2 lower inside edges of the chest piece. Also make 2 other golden rings for the bottom front edge of the ephod at the sash. Now attach the bottom of the chest piece to the bottom rings of the ephod by means of blue ribbons. This will prevent the chest piece from coming loose from the ephod. In this way Aaron shall carry the names of the tribes of Israel on the chest piece over his heart. It is God's oracle, when he goes into the holy place. Thus Jehovah will be reminded of them continually. Insert into the pocket of the chest piece the Urim and Thummim, to be carried over Aaron's heart when he goes in before Jehovah. Thus Aaron shall always be carrying the oracle over his heart when he goes in before the Lord. The ephod shall be made of blue cloth, with an opening for Aaron's head. It shall have a woven band around this opening, just as on the neck of a coat of mail, so that it will not fray. The bottom edge of the ephod shall be embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet pomegranates, alternated with gold bells. Aaron shall wear the ephod whenever he goes in to minister to the Lord. The bells will tinkle as he goes in and out of the presence of the Lord in the holy place, so that he will not die. Next, make a plate of pure gold, and engrave on it, just as you would upon a seal, consecrated to Jehovah. This plate is to be attached by means of a blue ribbon to the front of Aaron's turban. In this way Aaron will be wearing it upon his forehead, and thus bear the guilt connected with any errors regarding the offerings of the people of Israel. It shall always be worn when he goes into the presence of the Lord, so that the people will be accepted and forgiven. Weave Aaron's tunic from fine twined linen, using a checkerboard pattern. Make the turban, too, of this linen, and make him an embroidered sash. Then for Aaron's sons, make robes, sashes, and turbans to give them honor and respect. Clothe Aaron and his sons with these garments, and then dedicate these men to their ministry by anointing their heads with olive oil, thus sanctifying them as the priests, my ministers. Also make linen undershorts for them, to be worn beneath their robes next to their bodies, reaching from hips to knees. These are to be worn whenever Aaron and his sons go into the tabernacle or to the altar in the holy place, lest they be guilty and die. This is a permanent ordinance for Aaron and his sons.
Chapter 29.
This is the ceremony for the dedication of Aaron and his sons as priests. Get a young bull and 2 rams with no defects, and bread made without yeast, and thin sheets of sweetened bread mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers with oil poured over them. The various kinds of bread shall be made with finely ground wheat flour. Place the bread in a basket, and bring it to the entrance of the tabernacle, along with the young bull and the 2 rams. Bathe Aaron and his sons there at the entrance. Then put Aaron's robe on him, and the tunic, ephod, chest piece, and sash, and place on his head the turban with the golden plate. Then take the anointing oil, and pour it upon his head. Next, dress his sons in their robes, with their woven sashes, and place caps on their heads. They will then be priests forever. Thus you shall consecrate Aaron and his sons. Then bring the young bull to the tabernacle, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon its head. And you shall kill it before the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. Place its blood upon the horns of the altar, smearing it on with your finger, and pour the rest at the base of the altar. Then take all the fat that covers the inner parts, also the gallbladder and 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, and burn them upon the altar. Then take the body, including the skin and the dung, outside the camp, and burn it as a sin offering. Next Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon the head of one of the rams as it is killed. Its blood shall also be collected and sprinkled upon the altar. Cut up the ram and wash off the entrails and the legs. Place them with the head and the other pieces of the body, and burn it all upon the altar. It is a burnt offering to the Lord, and very pleasant to him. Now take the other ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands upon its head as it is killed. Collect the blood, and place some of it upon the tip of the right ear of Aaron and his sons, and upon their right thumbs, and the big toes of their right feet. Sprinkle the rest of the blood over the altar. Then scrape off some of the blood from the altar and mix it with some of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it upon Aaron and his sons, and upon their clothes, and they and their clothing shall be sanctified to the Lord. Then take the fat of the ram, including the fat tail and the fat that covers the insides, also the gallbladder and the 2 kidneys and the fat surrounding them, and the right thigh, for this is the ram for ordination of Aaron and his sons, and 1 loaf of bread, 1 cake of shortening bread, and 1 wafer from the basket of unleavened bread that was placed before the Lord. Place these in the hands of Aaron and his sons, to wave them in a gesture of offering to the Lord. Afterwards, take them from their hands and burn them on the altar as a fragrant burnt offering to him. Then take the breast of Aaron's ordination ram and wave it before the Lord in a gesture of offering. Afterwards, keep it for yourself. Give the breast and thigh of the consecration ram to Aaron and his sons. The people of Israel must always contribute this portion of their sacrifices, whether peace offerings or thanksgiving offerings, as their contribution to the Lord. These sacred garments of Aaron shall be preserved for the consecration of his son who succeeds him, from generation to generation, for his anointing ceremony. Whoever is the next high priest after Aaron shall wear these clothes for 7 days before beginning to minister in the tabernacle and the holy place. Take the ram of consecration, the ram used in the ordination ceremony, and boil its meat in a sacred area. Aaron and his sons shall eat the meat, also the bread in the basket at the door of the tabernacle. They alone shall eat those items used in their atonement, that is, in their consecration ceremony. The ordinary people shall not eat them, for these things are set apart and holy. If any of the meat or bread remains until the morning, burn it. It shall not be eaten, for it is holy. This then is the way you shall ordain Aaron and his sons to their offices. This ordination shall go on for 7 days. Every day you shall sacrifice a young bull as a sin offering for atonement. Afterwards, purge the altar by making atonement for it. Pour olive oil upon it to sanctify it. Make atonement for the altar and consecrate it to God every day for 7 days. After this, the altar shall be exceedingly holy, so that whatever touches it shall be set apart for God. Each day offer 2 yearling lambs upon the altar, one in the morning and the other in the evening. With one of them, offer 3 quarts of finely ground flour mixed with 2 1/2 pints of oil pressed from olives. Also 2 1/2 pints of wine as a libation. Offer the other lamb in the evening, along with flour and the wine libation as in the morning, for a fragrant burnt offering to the Lord. This shall be a perpetual daily offering at the door of the tabernacle before the Lord, where I will meet with you and speak with you. And I will meet with the people of Israel there. And the tabernacle shall be sanctified by my glory. Yes, I will sanctify the tabernacle, and the altar, and Aaron and his sons, who are my ministers, the priests. And I will live among the people of Israel and be their God, and they shall know that I am the Lord their God. I brought them out of Egypt, so that I could live among them. I am Jehovah their God.
Chapter 30.
Then make a small altar for burning incense. It shall be made from acacia wood. It is to be 18 inches square and 3 feet high, with horns carved from the wood of the altar. They are not to be merely separate parts that are attached. Overlay the top, sides, and horns of the altar with pure gold, and run a gold molding around the entire altar. Beneath the molding, on each of 2 sides, construct 2 gold rings to hold the carrying poles. The poles are to be made of acacia wood overlaid with gold. Place the altar just outside the veil, near the place of mercy that is above the ark containing the 10 Commandments. I will meet with you there.